What up, Tyrone? Brother Santiago, what's up? Brother Canty, what's up? John Frederico, what's up? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Brooklyn Pete, what's up? I gotta hand it to a lot of you younger people involved with the technical angle of doing video podcasts, YouTubing. There's so much to this thing I didn't even know. I just recently bought a mic so we can maybe get better sound quality. How is my sound quality? Can anybody tell me? Come on, everybody. Anybody tell me how the sound quality is? Harada, what's up? Thank you, man. Thank you. This is the first time I'm using a mic. I used to use the mic of the cell phone. So anyway, here we are. So let's get right into this. This is not going to be a long session, and I don't really like to do long sessions whenever I can avoid it. And simply that's because I want people to be able to play back the video and be able to get some education for themselves. The longer that you play a video tends to be the longer the easier that it'll get lost in translation, because you know our schedules are busy. We don't often have time to listen to long videos, and sometimes when you get to talking, like myself, other people who do podcasts, we could cover a lot of things, and what will end up happening is it get lost in translation, because when the video is shared, some people just don't have time to listen to the whole video. So let me kind of cut right to the chase and get into it here. So I'm going to talk about education and education of the contract, current and present. Now, the contract that we have is a large document. I would say it's this thick. It's about 2 to 3 inches thick, with a lot of information broken down in divisions, broken down in grievance and discipline, the alcohol policy, the drug policy, religious accommodations. There's a lot of information in the contract. And I believe that technology has dumbed us down a lot, because the information is so readily available on the websites, on other people's pages, but we don't take time to look at them. And then when other people start to make comments on the agreements, because we don't have time to read them, we tend to just take it at face value, the words at face value. And I think it's important that we all just take a little bit of time to read. And this is why I decided to do something a little bit different with the page, and I started to do something concerning education and make it a little bit fun for everybody, because that's how we all going to learn. And I believe in my heart that if everybody is educated, we're a stronger membership. And I think it's very important. Richie Bermudez, I'm going to speak on Richie Bermudez. He was a chairperson from the old guard. He was a chairperson for Tuskegee Depot. And one of the things that Richard Bermudez used to do is if a member was on report and they didn't have no work to give them, or if they was fitness for duty, he would give them a contract. He would put a contract out there in the swing room and give it to the person and say, listen, just read the contract. Read whatever you can read. Come back and ask questions if you have questions. That was Richie Bermudez' style. A lot of people followed Richie Bermudez in Tuskegee. He had a very strong following as a result of his style of chairmanship. So now that we're in the internet age, and everything is on the internet, everything is Facebook, everything is YouTube, everything is there, but it's not. It's like you just can't pick what you want to go to because we still don't know how. And I'll give you a case in point. My own child, she's 16 years old, and oftentimes she comes to me struggling in certain subjects, and then I say, you know something, I call myself one that goes to YouTube University, because I done educated myself on so many topics on YouTube. I tell my own daughter, go to YouTube, put up the subject matter, because there's certain maths and things that they're under that I just can't teach. I can't even help my daughter because they just changed the whole way of teaching. But I said, just type in something to the nature of what you're learning, and you'll have somebody on YouTube that'll be able to explain it to you better than anybody can explain it to you. So translate that into a child who's into technology. When we was children, we had to pick up the encyclopedia. We had to pick up the dictionary. We had to go to the library and look at microfilm, look at magazines in order to research things on papers we had to do for school. So putting that in perspective, even though the information is readily available, the information is still you have to harvest the land, in other words, in layman's terms, in order to get the meaning of things. And sometimes you need help doing that. So as of lately, I've been putting up some things on the contract. I did something on the drug policy, and I think it's very important for people to understand, because once people go into UAP or EAP, there's a lot of chatter amongst everybody, and oftentimes the information is just plain wrong, but the information is in the collective bargaining agreement. So you could start in the collective bargaining agreement under Section 1.20 when you talk about the alcohol policy, and then that 1.20 will lead you into Appendix E1 and Appendix E2, which is the alcohol and drug policy. And if you read those things, such as, I'll give you an example for an alcohol policy, and we just went over this a couple days ago, and then I said I would give the answer on it this morning. But the alcohol policy, if you go down for a random and you test positive for alcohol, and your levels is between 0.02 and 0.04, you got to go for blood confirmation. And that was kind of what I was trying to explain to everybody about blood confirmation when the Transit Authority was trying to take that away. So if you read the policy itself, then you'll understand that that was a big deal, and we beat that back. But let me just go on and say that if you go to random drug testing, and you're found to be positive for whatever reason, you're going to go into a drug program administered by EAP, and as long as you can compliance with the program, you're going to be entitled to your leave balances. Okay, that's on random drug testing. If you get sent down because of a fitness for duty, you're not entitled to the same policy. You're not entitled to using your leave balances the same way. You will receive a 30-day suspension. And God forbid, if you have an accident with injuries and you're sent down for fitness for duty, you're going to lose your job under the policy. Okay, so there's a lot of avenues, a lot of things to learn, and I want to be one of the guys to help you learn. We've created Line Steward programs, we've created Next Generation, and people just, for whatever reason, just lose a little bit of interest. Don't want to come and travel. Don't really want to learn. Life is just busy. You know, we got kids, we got bills to go pay, we got people to see in school. Maybe the school teacher, or maybe your child has something going on where you want to be in attendance. So it's really hard. So I decided that we're going to try to bring it to you and try to encourage you to come on out at the same time. All right? And I think that's important. So we can have more of a discussion on that. And I encourage you to ask me a lot of questions, because asking me questions makes me sharper than what I already am. And believe me, I'm pretty sharp now, but it makes me sharper because, you know, iron sharpens iron, you know, and I think that's a great thing. But I want to get into the FMLA policy a little bit here. Not really wanting to get into the FMLA policy, but I want to tell you what happened this week in Michael J. Quill, which is one of the depots I represent in my division. And what had happened is an operator, and let me get into this. This is a very serious conversation. An operator wanted to take off on Martin Luther King's birthday, but was scheduled to work. So he went on the internet, went on to social media and asked the question, if he took off FMLA, will he be required to give some type of documentation? So the same person, and I'll leave him nameless, he asked the question on this page, which this page here, I'm telling you, is secure. I don't put managers on this page for a reason. And I got 2,000 and about 200 members on this page, and that's for a reason. I can have 10,000 people. I've been doing this now since 2004, and then I could just have a lot of people on this page, and I choose not to because I screen the people I'm going to put on this page. I've screened to make sure that they're not management. All right, I screen them because it's important that we have a place to talk where it's private and it's between us, and I believe that's important. Now, Progressive Action, which is a page that people like because they talk about issues and some of those issues need to be talked about. I'll be the first to tell you. But there's a lot of managers on there. And that same person asked the question on Progressive Action, and the Michael J. Quill manager, or the general superintendent, I'll be more specific, General Superintendent Michael J. Quill, just so happens to be a member of Progressive Action. So when he comes to work on Tuesday, they wanted him to fill out a leave of absence form, right? Now, this is something that they've been trying to do in Michael J. Quill. Make you fill out a leave of absence form to tell why you're using FMLA for family members. And what the idea behind that is to track your FMLA usage. Why they want to track it, I'm not sure of. But it can't be no good. So I got involved with it because the operator in question that I was talking about, they didn't want to pay the operator, right? So I went up to the union of Quill. They was complaining to me about it, which was a good thing. And then we went up to the general superintendent's office, and we discussed it with the general superintendent and the AGS of that depot. And they essentially said that it was the General Superintendent of Support Services who says that this has to be done, and it came from higher up. So when I went, so I said, okay, no problem. Whatever the case may be, I'm gonna nip this in the bud, whether through grievance or some type of fight back. What we gonna do? So I went to the General Superintendent of Support Services. His name is Omar Bolano, and Omar Bolano simply told me the FMLA policy. Every time I was asking him specific questions about why you're using the leave of absence form, then I had some concerns that if they use this form, will it impact them on their pension? Is it considered good time, bad time? I mean, there were so many variables here that I had a concern with. And he just kept going back to the policy of FMLA, and he would not address the issue with the leave of absence form. So I turned around and I said to him, "Thank you very much. Have a nice day." I was very polite. I was unusually polite, because normally I'd say something disrespectful to the manager, but I did. This time I didn't. What I did is I went down to the swing room in Michael J. Quill. The swing room was pretty crowded, and I did an impromptu shop gate, 30 seconds, a minute long. I went to one side of the swing room, and then I went to the other side of the swing room, and I says that if transit tells you to fill out a leave of absence once you use FMLA for a family member, you are to not fill that form out. We are not filling that form out, period. All right, then I saw the AGS in the swing, in the AGS in the crew dispatcher's office after we just had the discussion, and I said to the AGS, "I hope you're hearing what I'm saying. I'm informing my members that they're not to fill out that leave of absence form. And I'm just letting you know this ain't behind your back. This is in your face." All right. Secondly, I had to call the AGM of Strategic Planning of the Division of Manhattan. And I informed him what my positions was. And I told him I intended to file a grievance on this right away and send this also. Not only will I be sending this grievance through the grievance and discipline policy, I will make a complaint to the Department of Labor. So he informed me, all right, let me look into it. He'll call me back in the afternoon, later in the afternoon. And he didn't call me back. I called him in the morning. And I said, what's the story here? So he says, "No, well, you know what, you're right. I don't think that, I don't see nowhere in the policy where it requires this type of documentation. So I'm going to inform them to make sure that they pull that documentation." So that's what happened. They pulled that documentation, right? So I'm talking to some people in Michael J. Quill, that's managers, and they're saying essentially he was the one that actually authorized them to use the form in Michael J. Quill, essentially to see if we would catch it. And this is why education is important, because once they start a practice, now we have a practice of how we do things. FMLA is part of that practice. In Manhattan, we don't provide documentation in a sealed envelope. In the Bronx, they may do it another way. In Brooklyn, they may do it another way. But in Manhattan, which I have to be the guardian of, we don't do that. We don't have a current practice where we got to provide anything. So I'm not going to start a practice now. So the object of this discussion is to let you know members play a very important part. Doesn't necessarily mean because you're mad at your union reps that you shouldn't inform your union reps something that may be going on, just in case the reps don't know what's going on. And in this case, a change by using a different form is changing the practice on something. So you should go to your union rep right away, and you should stick to your union. Never be scared to take a stand on something. If they say they're not going to pay you, so be it. We'll make sure you get paid in the end. And that's the bottom line. That's what the union is for. So, moving along, I'm going to talk about something. I just want y'all to. I'm going to do some research on something, and that's in Michael J. Quill. You have your electric buses. All right, has a lot. That bus has a lot of power, about 800 volts, which is enough power to push a train. I think that the operators who operate that bus need to ask more questions, as I'm asking more questions, and I will be getting back to you on that issue. All right. Now, once again, and I think it's more important enough to mention that iron sharpens iron, and I don't pretend to know everything. All right, and I believe that even if a member can come up and teach me something, maybe it's something that they saw, and maybe it's something that it'll make me pay attention to it. That's important. Iron sharpens iron. Or if the member is enlightening themselves to the point where they're educating themselves on the contract, the policies, the procedures, the policy instructions, arbitrated decisions. When you start educating yourself, if you have a union who you feel is lackadaisical, then what you automatically do is you cause your union to have to learn the contract and be just as sharp as you, or even sharper. So that's iron sharpens iron. It's just the law of being positive. I want to learn this, and because I'm learning something and I could teach something, that other person may want to learn it too, so they're not made to look stupid. And that's just what iron sharpens iron is all about. And it's a good thing, because at the end of the thing, we're a union. So being a part of a union, we should all be educated, which will make us strong and make us not have a weak link. And that's important. And I think we moved so far away from that over time. I think education is a good thing, and we should continue to educate ourselves. And as I think, and once again, it's important that you learn the contract, because we went through this contract ratification vote, and a lot of people didn't like the wages and the $100 emergency room fee. But if you looked at everything else I've been saying, it's been right on. All you gotta do is look in the contract. It has been right on. Anybody else saying something? Committees, all of that stuff has been in the contract since the 90s. So you just got to take a look for your own self, and take an effort to do it, so you can see for yourself. That's the only thing I want to say on that. My philosophy, and I got to tell you, I've been doing this a while. I've received plenty of criticisms on other pages. They put flyers up, and I got to tell you, I don't take it personal. I just tell them the truth and let them decide. That's it. Don't take it personal. Just tell them the truth and let them decide. Newsletters. I used to write newsletters, and I shouldn't even say used to. I still write them. It's so much faster to do a live. It's so much faster to type a post than it is to actually write and edit a newsletter. But I'm gonna continue to do the newsletters, because I think handing out the newsletters is a good thing, because there's a lot of people who are not on Facebook. So, giving them something to read, nothing lengthy, because when you go into lengthy things, listen, we as operators, we got other things to do. We got to get ready to operate a bus and service. So I don't want to read nothing too long. Give me something directly to the point, and let me get that information that way. So the newsletters will continue in every depot in this division. If you so choose to hand it out to other divisions, that's no problem. Like I said, I wasn't going to make this long. This was a short one. I want to talk about January 29th. We have a court date for our brother, Michael Haynes, for the perpetrator who pulled a gun out on him. That's January 29th, 100 Center Street, Part 42. Let's come out and support that brother. 9 o'clock in the morning. We don't know what time they bring that guy out, but if we could just come and show some support, that would be good. And by the way, since this new law has been enacted about bail and all that stuff, I'm not even sure if we're going to be able to keep this guy in jail any longer. But I'll report on that. But please come out and support this brother. 100 Center Street, January 29th. All right? And we'll continue this conversation offline. Be safe, everyone, and God bless.